In my first life, I was a practicing lawyer, and for several years of that did criminal defense work and some juvenile court work. I also held office as a county commissioner in a Kansas county, and part of our task in that job was to look into designing a new jail and starting a community corrections program. I reached a point in my life when I had less and less career satisfaction practicing law and more satisfaction in my church activities. Drifted over to my pastor's office and talked about the sense of call, started the seminary sort of part-time, and eventually transitioned into ministry. But in the process, I said to God, I'll do this ministry deal, but I want you to remember that I like working with people in trouble. And so in my second ministry appointment, about 6 months later, I was new in town, and the first week or two got a call from a prison chaplain asking me to come out and do the service. I don't know if he just watched the newspaper for new clergy in town or how that happened, but once I did that, he invited me to go ahead and be involved on a regular basis, and the local church supported that as an outreach ministry. I tried to get as many people as possible from the church involved in that. A few years later, I was asked whether or not I'd be interested in this appointment, which basically is ministry to prisoners, ex-prisoners, and their families utilizing volunteers statewide in Oklahoma. That was in 1994, and it was that point really that I began to get familiar with restorative justice. I was fortunate enough to have a continuing ed allowance that allowed me to finance a Doctor of Ministry degree, and St. Paul was open enough to allow me to focus in restorative justice. And the praxis credo part of that experience was to talk about restorative justice from a biblical and theological perspective, and then propose a project. And the project I proposed was to teach a course to law students and seminarians simultaneously in restorative justice. OCU Law School was kind enough to allow me to do it as a project, and it eventually voted to make it a permanent part of the curriculum. It took 7 or 8 years to get the two universities to come together and actually permit seminarians and law students in the same class. That's the way it's been now for the last 3 years. And you know, our ministry includes 4 churches that we call redemption churches. And those are congregations of prisoners, ex-prisoners, their families, and religious volunteers. And we really try to get prisoners involved in the life of the church while they're still locked up, let them know there is a place for them when they get out. The churches have a high demand ecclesiology. We're not satisfied that somebody come to church once a week. We have services twice a week, and we have classes on Thursday night as well as services that are really aimed at their life needs: cognitive therapy, relapse prevention, faith-based 12-step groups, and other things. We have a Wednesday night Bible study in Oklahoma City, and twice a month a United Methodist men's group, which are both free world men and prisoner men, and the United Methodist women's group that meets once a month. We have church camps for children who have parents in prison, one for 8 to 11-year-olds, one for 12 to 14-year-olds. Oklahoma City and Tulsa, we have faith-based program transitional housing units called Exodus House. Ex-prisoner and their children can come live there rent-free for 9 months to a year. There are 2 staff that live on site, a case manager and a facilities manager. Everybody has to undergo a chemical or drug alcohol assessment and given a program to follow. They must attend Redemption Church twice a week as long as they're there. We expect our residents to obtain employment, and once that happens, then we have them put aside a certain amount of their money into a savings plan. So when they graduate, should they graduate, then they get their savings, they get an apartment's worth of furniture, which we furnish, and they have a church home if they want it. So that's what the program looks like.